Your words on Dana.
And President Trump announcing an unprecedented pressure campaign targeting Iran's oil and finances. So he's calling it Economic D-Day and warns of economic consequences against any country that helps the regime. Iran's foreign minister shrugged it off. He said this on a post saying, Economic D-Day is a diversion from America's own crisis, unprecedented debt and surging interest costs. Doubling down on failed policies will only bring further defeat and enmity of Iranians. U.S. economic terrorism threatens global economy and sovereignty worldwide. Joining us now, Brent Sadler from the Heritage Foundation Center for National Security. We've had a lot of sanctions on Iran for many, many years. What would be different this time?
Yeah, well, the first thing is the blockade on the shipping. That is a new wrinkle. That's not something that's been done before. But it's not enough, and it's going to require the military presence that's there to stay and perhaps be proactively going after threats rather than waiting for an attack to respond to an attack on shipping. But when they're talking about a new economic D-Day, the expectation is they're going to be even more sharper economic sanctions going after second-order sanctions on other countries that do trade with them. But countries like Russia and China, they're not going to be affected as much. So there's going to have to be also perhaps a kinetic element to this economic warfare or statecraft.
What do you mean by kinetic?
Going after shipping is one of those that you're seeing right now. Kinetic, like vessel boarding and seizures of the dark fleet that's been going on since late last year and has been picking up with more countries participating. But that needs to also probably be ramped up, not just coming in and out of the Straits of Hormuz, but wherever there is shipping that's benefiting or those that are doing business with the Iranians need to start getting interdicted.
Okay, the Israelis have said this to Fox News. This is the intelligence official saying that we are seeing indication that Iran's ability to continue funding its proxies is coming under strain. Iran sends billions of dollars to its net proxy network, so the assessment is that sustained economic pressure on Iran could ultimately starve its entire proxy network, choking off the financial lifeline that keeps the entire network alive. And if you don't mind, let me just also mention this, Brent. The pressure on Iran is something I want to read to you about this, about UAE. It's intensifying economic pressure to discourage Iranian efforts to control or disrupt navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. That's what you just said. And Iran will likely respond to the UAE's decision with greater military and economic pressure against the UAE rather than abandon its efforts to secure greater control over the Strait of Hormuz. How will that go? It's like a game of chicken between the UAE and the Iranians.
Well, the UAE is acting now somewhat under, and I would say it wasn't really necessary, U.S. pressure because the Iranians have been attacking. The largest number of missiles been directed at the UAE in this conflict. So I think it was inevitable that the UAE, at the right time for them, to sever all these economic ties. With regards to the proxy, that's another venue in which the kinetic action to actually have an economic angle to it also can play out. And I think as we take a more economic in the lead and the blockade being sustained rather than threatening wholesale strikes across Iran, I think going after and further isolating and degrading the proxies, this is one of the levers that the regime in Tehran still has. That also has to be a prime target. And I think rather than letting up, the intensity of the attacks against these proxies, like the Houthis, of course, those in Iraq, also need to be stepped up.
Brent, we know that the Iranians don't care about the suffering of the people of Iran. And the regime leaders, they continue to, I guess, maybe they're not living in luxury, but we know that the economic pressure on the Iranian people has been really devastating already. Do we have any insight as to how much pain the regime can withstand? Because I know that the people are afraid to come out because they will just be mowed down. But I'm wondering if you have any insight into the regime's basically capacity to take more hits on the economic front.
Yeah, two things. So there are a lot of Iranians and family members that are living in extreme luxury in Europe and even in the United States. And so going after that's, I think, something to be spoken to on the economic front. But on the people side, the thing to look for is when the police, the IRGC members and elements of them start to defect in greater numbers or don't enforce the diktat out of Tehran, that'll be an indication that the resources to maintain power in Iran is starting to break.
Brent, thanks for being here today. As this development continues, we'll look and see what Economic D-Day results in. Thank you so much.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.